Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome, bienvenue, willkommen, bienvenidos, welcome, benvindo, benvenuti, tervetuloa, and if you're from Latvia, well, I quite frankly reserve a stadium right now for May 2015 because there's no way that any other song other than Cake to Bake is going to win. I mean, like me Lujan. And yes, welcome indeed to the third Eurovision 2014 podcast from ESCtips.com, where our talented guests will review each of the songs competing in the first half of the second semi-final. My name's Andy Redfern, at ScandieAndy on Twitter. We just heard the tones of Georges Charpentier's Te Deum, which is quite apt because I think that most of the songs in this year's Eurovision Song Contest are complete tedium. As I've said in previous podcasts, I've decided that I cannot host a single of these podcasts without being slightly drunk. So in front of me right now I have a pint of Polish bison grass vodka, and believe me, it's lovely. Anyway, onto the business of the day and onto the guests. This week's special guest is a social media tsunami. His reach is far and his opinion is rarely passive. He's a full-time trader of TV events and just occasionally he's also right. Please welcome Tim Booth. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Andy. Hi guys, thanks for having me.
No problem, thanks for making the time. And obviously the second person on today's podcast, he's the head honcho, he's the owner of ESCtips.com, and so far he's never been arrested by Operation U-Tree. Welcome, Gavin Lambert, welcome.
Thanks for that, Andy. How are you?
Not too bad. Shall we move on? Last week we discussed the second half of the first semi-final, so this week we'll be debating the first half of the second semi-final. In running order, we have Malta, Israel, Norway, Georgia, Poland, Austria and Lithuania. Anyway, let's move on to the first entry. It's from a country that managed a top 10 finish last year. This year they've entered Firelight with Coming Home.
I ain't gonna leave until you know my name. Stepping out of the shell, now don't you step in my way. Rolling through fields, I'm trying to find this new land. It's only 'cause I'm here, I'm finding gold in my hand. Oh, I'm coming home.
Gav, did it light your fire?
Well, I was a huge fan of this song when it was first released, and I thought it had a great chance of doing well in Copenhagen. I don't have a problem with the Mumford & Sons theme. Why would it be considered negative to be compared to a band that has reached number one across Europe? The Bayou sound is certainly on vogue this year, but that said, opening the semi-final has introduced some doubts, especially with Switzerland positioned later in the second half of the semi-final. Early on in the selection calendar, though, it was Switzerland who I thought would be at risk. But since watching the two groups perform in Amsterdam, I think Switzerland are the more guaranteed qualifiers. As a group, though, Firelight, they do look a bit like a Christian rock band, so it does come across as being a little too syrupy, needy, and perhaps a bit contrived in places. I wrote a detailed review suggesting how they might present themselves, but so far I'm not seeing any positive changes. Again, it does still follow that very churchy Christian rock band. And the graphics in Amsterdam suggested sepia imagery. I was hoping for something a bit bolder, given they were going from slot one in the running order. I think they'll qualify, but at the moment they're still a bit borderline, mainly because of what follows them.
Okay, Tim, Gav says Christian rock band. Do you believe?
Yeah, I think I do. I mostly agree with what Gav said, but I have to say I love this song. I think it's credible, it's very uplifting and feel good. I don't really get the Mumford & Sons comparisons. I'd actually say it's kind of original by Eurovision standards. It's got all the right ingredients to do well. It's contemporary and middle of the road. So in the new voting system, you have to do well with both televoters and juries, and I think this ticks all the boxes. I like the nice male and female vocal combo. It's a nice duet. The song's got a nice happy, clappy, tappy vibe. And I think that this has the potential to win the jury vote in semi-final too. We know that Malta often does a bit better than they deserve to with the juries, and they won the semi-final jury vote last year. I think history could repeat itself here. Also, this song I think is very much underrated by fans and the market. And that's why he got some really high prices at the moment for outright and top 10. But as Gav says, it is on first, and Switzerland is a bit similar and comes later. I don't think that's going to stop it from qualifying. And I would say if everything comes together, such as the running order and the staging, then I think this could be another top 10 in the final.
Okay, so I did like the fact that you said happy clappy, which is also something that Christian rock groups like. For me, well, the only similarity I hear with Mumford & Sons is that I like it-ish. It is almost a bit like the early 90s indie band James, coincidentally, who are led by Tim Booth. So well done, Tim.
Yeah,
on
indeed.
this. No wonder you like it, because you're clearly the singer.
Well, to be honest, I really don't like Mumford & Sons, but for some reason I love this song. So, yeah, I don't really see the comparisons with them anyway.
No, I really don't. But otherwise, I like the fact it's an upbeat effort, and there's so many either ballads or power ballads in this year's Eurovision. I like that, but it's nothing remarkable. To be honest, given the competition, I hope it qualifies. But yes, it's starting first, so we shall see. Anyway, let's move on to Israel. Israel have not qualified for the last 3 years. They'll be hoping that it's fourth time lucky. Here is May Feingold with Same Heart. Tim, what does your heart say?
Well, I do like this song, but I actually got a whole list of negatives for it. The main negative for me is the bilingual lyrics. I've got a huge problem with songs in Eurovision which can't decide which language they want to be in. So this particular song is in both English and Hebrew, and it switches between the two, which is I don't really like. The running order's terrible. In my opinion, it's really awful to perform from second. It's the most forgettable slot there is. Yeah, and as you say, Israel haven't qualified since 2010. I think Israel on an international scale is a very unpopular country. The song itself is very repetitive and predictable. You just get the chorus over and over again. And I think it's sandwiched between two certain qualifiers as well, in Malta and Norway. The first three songs from a semi-final have never all qualified together. At least one of them has missed out. And out of the three, I would put Israel as definitely the most likely to miss out. The song's also very aggressive sounding. The performance as well, I think, is going to be quite in your face and aggressive. And I would also say the song's a bit of a fan wank. And we all know what happened to Valentina Monetta last year. She didn't qualify, and I would say that all the fan type of votes in this semi-final are going to go to Austria. So Israel is going to miss out from that kind of perspective. I also think that Macedonia, coming later on in this semi, has got a similar kind of vibe, and it takes the shine off Israel. They're both fairly decent songs in their own right, but you'd want to be the one performing later, wouldn't you? So, yeah, but on the other hand, it's a contemporary song, and the performance is likely to be quite decent. But for me, at the moment, I've got this down as a non-qualifier, and I've been laying it to do so on Betfair.
Okay, could I ask you, what have you got against songs in more than one language, Tim?
For me, it's just a bit off-putting. I think the televoters at home to understand that, a song coherently, they want it in just one language. I just think songs in two languages have had a poor record. But
it worked for Ukraine.
Which year are you talking?
I'm talking 2004 when they won it.
True, but it's a long time ago. I don't know. I think it's rare for a bilingual song to have a lot of success. Another one might be Russia from 2012, the Grannies, but I think that's an exception. It's a novelty entry, so.
Oh, well, that was completely novelty. Sorry, I was just interested.
Oh, yeah.
Gav, what do you think?
Well, I'll start by saying that I preferred Be Proud from their national selection. I can only assume the dance-loving fanboys multi-voted for Same Heart. I just felt that Be Proud was a better standout song and better suited to Eurovision, certainly more interesting. Having said that, there are some nice rock elements that open Same Heart, but once we get to the first minute, it switches to the more generic dance sound, and then we get the verse and chorus in Hebrew, which is an awkward language, as Tim refers to. And then we get the bridge, where eventually we get some kind of unexciting key change, and it all just sounds very laboured and half-arsed. May has some great live vocals. There are some videos on YouTube to look back to. I do doubt she'll drop points with the juries in that area, but I do think that Israel and Same Heart needed a later draw to even get close to qualification. One person who might be praying for an early flight home for Israel will be Emma Maroney, the Italian candidate. I think both songs fish from the same pond, but as I said, I don't think Israel will make the final, so I think Italy will be quite relieved about that.
Okay, that's fine. My review is just, I've just written one sentence. As soon as the vocals started, I could predict the rest. Sadly, that's true of about half the songs this year. Anyway, from the Middle East, we go to the Nordics. Here is Carl Espen with Silent Storm for Norway.
I'm here to use my heart and my hands. Somehow the bruises change my plans. And there's a silent storm inside me, looking for a home. I hope that someone's gonna find me and say that I'll belong. I'll wait forever and a lifetime to find I'm not alone. And there's a silent storm inside me.
Gavin, give me your take on Carl Espen.
Well, many people have criticised Carl Espen's appearance and suitability to Eurovision. I think he's perfect for this song. His timid demeanour perfectly suits the insecurity of the song. He looks like an average Joe on the street, and again, that's just something different. It doesn't fit the typical ballad stereotype. Unlike other slow songs that have people crying out, "Not another ballad," I think Carl's performance engages the audience more than most over recent years. Nerves are an issue, especially during the second verse, where Carl's vocal pitch dips far more than in the recorded version. That too was apparent in Amsterdam, so I'm not sure whether it's something they plan to address. Also, Carl has a tendency to keep his eyes closed. That's the bad point. There are parts of the song that maybe call for that, but I think he needs to connect and reach out more to the viewers at home. Norway will qualify with ease, despite not having many allies in the semi-final. Therefore, I think Silent Storm might perform stronger in the final than in the semi. But I don't see any issues qualifying, and I think it should do well in the final. I see it as a top 10.
Quite frankly, you said he shouldn't keep his eyes closed. Quite frankly, I'd like to keep my eyes and ears closed after this. He's moody looking. He's pretending to be deep by singing slowly and looking glum. This is basically what's wrong with a lot of the entries. There's nothing interesting there. But as long as you sing slowly, look as if you're tortured, then it looks kind of deep. And quite frankly, Carl Espen, I really don't want you in Eurovision. I think you should piss off back to Norway and leave us in peace. You sing, "There's a silent storm inside me." Well, quite frankly, it's not silent enough, Carl Espen. Shut up. Anyway, Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I mostly agree with Gav. I think in terms of song quality, it's excellent. I really love the studio version. It's emotional and powerful. It's such a simple song, very accessible, has the potential to score from all over. But for me, I'm one of those people who has a problem with the singer. I think Carl's appearance is very unappealing. I don't think he's someone people will aspire to be like. I'd much rather have someone younger and better looking singing it. I think if you look back to 2012 with Roman Lob from Germany, he had the kind of similar rough bearded look going on, but was obviously much better looking. I would much prefer someone like him to be singing this song. There hasn't been much of a stage show yet from it so far. I think that could hurt it. And in this semi, there's a surprising lack of allies. The only two I could count were Finland and Poland. So I think that's going to hint that, along with the running order, is going to stop it from winning the semi. But like Gav, I do think it's a solid qualifier and probably top 3 in the semi. But I just think something else is going to pip it for the win. As in terms of the final, I'm on the fence. I think we're going to have the same kind of Scandinavian rule as usual. I think 2 Scandinavian countries will be in the top 10 and the rest will miss out. And for me, I would put Denmark and Sweden ahead of Norway. But Sweden or Norway one of them could easily miss out on top 10 for me. I don't think it can win the final. I think this year we're going to see something either up-tempo or mid-tempo winning outright.
I should point out, by the way, I don't think it won't qualify. I just needed to kind of vent my spleen, as it were.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Okay, from Norway, we move on to Georgia. The title of this next song describes its authors perfectly. Somewhere in orbit, possibly from another universe entirely. It's The Shin and Mariko with 3 Minutes to Earth.
Home to this trail of a lonely star. Home to the earth where we belong. Belong to the dazzling light of mankind's emotion. Show us the stairway to come back to earth. Skydivers, space jam. Lead no 3 minutes longing for love. Instant light everywhere. Pick up all the rainbow bus from the sky. All the tries, all the whys. 3 minutes to earth for you and for me.
Okay, Tim, how were those 3 minutes to Earth for you?
I'll try and start with a positive. Well, at least they've tried something different this year. The song stands out, don't think in a very good way, though. For me, the song is terrible. The lyrics are hilarious. You've got the skydivers, space jump, and it's just ridiculous. It won't qualify. For me, it's the most certain non-qualifier we've got in either semi, really. I think it could come last in this semi-final. And yeah, there's just too much of a 60s hippie vibe, and it doesn't seem like they're taking it seriously. And I think this is one of the worst songs we've got this year. It's a total waste of money, and it reminds me of Macedonia from last year, actually, which again was a similar sort of no-hoper. And yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere.
Okay, I mean, typically contrarily for me, quite liked it because it wasn't dull. There's too many different aspects which aren't quite fitting for me. There were certain prog rock touches, at least kind of acoustic prog rock touches, and that and the Georgian yodeling reminded me of my favourite prog rock song, and believe me, it's not a long list, from the 70s by the Dutch band Focus, which was called Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus by Focus. It was very good. But it's nowhere near as good as that. It's got the ethnic start klaxon for me. To be honest, whether it'll qualify or not, I bow to your superior judgment, Tim. What about you, Gav?
I largely agree with Tim, to be honest. They were booed in Amsterdam, which was a tad uncalled for. I loathe the song. I think the opening is like a bad karaoke version of Enigma's Return to Innocence. It's not qualifying, but I am looking forward to seeing them in rehearsals. They're going to provide our entertainment for 2 weeks, I think.
Okay, fine. From Georgia, we move on to Poland. Poland do not have a great record in Eurovision. Actually, here's my historian moment. Their first song in 1994 was the greatest debutante song ever. It finished second, which was Tony Ja by Edyta Górniak. But since then, it's kind of been a downhill passage. But here's Donatan and Cleo with My Słowianie, or We Are Slavic. Here they are. Gav, are you Slavic?
Not last time I checked my passport, no. Their original YouTube video has over 40 million hits, which is impressive. The song is catchy, the clapping is extremely infectious, so I hope they find a way of recreating that on the Eurovision stage in Copenhagen. My problem with the song is that there's a risk they over-sexualise it, and viewers miss out on the actual anti-stereotype message. Also, their lead singer, Joanna Klepko, might come across as being a bit fierce on TV. Surprisingly, Poland do have a number of allies, so I think they should qualify. But I think I need to see rehearsals to predict their popularity in the final. Just to flag up a potential issue, I think being followed by Austria might be a negative. People might pay more attention to the Austrian song, given the polarising singer. And it might hit the reset button in many viewers' memories. And also another thing to point out is that over the last couple of days, they released the official Eurovision version. It's pretty much just the last part of the song, which is in English. They've also added some extra gaps, a bit of breathing space in between the chorus and verses. And I don't think it works. It looks a bit like a last-minute back of the Siggy packet mashed together. So for me, it's all looking a bit messy now from what was quite polished. So no, a bit borderline for me now, actually.
Okay, it's borderline for Gav. What about for you, Tim?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit more pessimistic than that, actually. I do agree with most of what Gavin has said. My biggest worry of this song is that it could be pulled down by the juries. It's so ethnic sounding. I think it's probably the most ethnic sounding song we've got of the whole year. And from last year, songs like this were really, really punished by the juries. Samo Championi from Bulgaria failed to qualify because the juries ranked it last. They much prefer to have something middle of the road and happy and, contemporary, in a boring sort of way, I guess. It's another bilingual song. I really, really hate the new version. And with this song, I think the danger of it being bilingual is that the Polish diaspora are going to be put off by the English part, and the English-speaking people are going to be put off by the Polish part. So I think in trying to please both sets of language speakers, I think it might end up pleasing neither. It is in the first half of the semi, and songs in this part of the semi are in danger. Yeah, the running order is pretty bad. I think it is one to watch, though. I'm looking forward to seeing the presentation for this, and they're performing in London on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to seeing what their stage presentation is like there. It might give us some clues into what to expect for Copenhagen. But I'm leaning towards a non-qualifier for this at the moment.
Okay. Well, I mean, my notes, Gav, you talked about the aggression of the female singer. I think it's only similar to, say, Sertab Erener, who won in 2003. My main worry is that I don't see much of a song there, which might not appeal to the juries. The video is very cleavage heavy and might disguise the kind of strong woman message. Ultimately, if Beyonce were Slavic, this might be what she would do, but she'd probably have better songwriters. Anyway, from Poland, we go on to Austria. fresh from their kiss and makeup session. By the way, that's in the friend sense of makeup, not lipstick and mascara. Seems everything is calm and okay. Here's Conchita Wurst with Rise Like a Phoenix for Austria.
I'm gonna fly.
Tim, did Conchita's Wurst make you gag?
Let's just stick to the song, shall we, Andy? I think
Fair enough.
It's a really classy song, classy in an old-fashioned sort of way. It's very Bond theme-like, Shirley Bassey type of vibe. I think she's an excellent singer, and she's going to be a huge talking point in Copenhagen. Being a bearded lady who's actually a man, so a drag queen with a beard, if you like. It's a huge fan favourite. The fanboys are going crazy for this song. It is a really good song. It's got a lot going for it. In this semi as well, it's a very Central European heavy semi, which is quite strange. Normally you will get one which is very Eastern European or very Western European, something like that. But for some reason we've got one where all the Central European countries are voting. In terms of Conchita's appearance, the ex-USSR countries, the homophobic sort of nations, are mostly all voting in the other semi, which helps Austria here. So I think the qualification prospects are good. And there's no Armenia as well. That would have been a bit awkward if Armenia was in the same semi. But on the other hand, the song is really old-fashioned. Austria's qualification record is terrible. But in this case, I think the song will qualify on merit. And if it does qualify, I think it won't be top 10 in the final. But it's one of those countries which is going to get a lot of media attention with, Conchita's appearance. And if it I think it's trading at something like 1.15 to qualify, which is really low. And if it goes down a bit further, I'd actually be tempted to lay this, given that it's such an open semi. And the only song for me that doesn't have any chance is Georgia. I would give every other single song a chance. So something's got to miss out. So you never know. But yeah, it's probably going to qualify.
Gav, will this rise like a phoenix or sink like a flying bratwurst?
Well, there's no doubt that Conchita will be the main talking point in Copenhagen. Like Cesar and Krista were in Malmo, I guess. There's a lot of fan love for Conchita, as Tim said, and I think that might be overstating her eventual popularity with viewers. We have to remember that while Conchita is distinctive and memorable, people will still need to like the song before voting. That said, the song is stunning, and I've written that if Rise Like a Phoenix was given to Dilara from Azerbaijan, I think they'd be market leaders right now. It's a powerful Bond theme influenced entry, and Conchita matches the prowess of Shirley Bassey. However, might the song be too dated for Eurovision, which every year is moving closer to the Melodifestivalen format, so very Swedish influenced pop music. Austria is still borderline for me. I still want to see the stage show, and I want to see the mood of the press before the event. And as Tim alluded to, the price for qualification is too short, so it doesn't interest me getting involved in qualification at the moment. And given that anything under 1.15 is a cheap lay, that would probably be the direction I would go. But I say it's borderline, but I would probably err on the side of qualification, as Tim said, just purely for song quality.
So you like cheap lays then?
Hey, you found me out already.
Exactly.
Watch out, Copenhagen.
I would agree with a lot of what's been said. Bond-like, that's what I heard in the first few seconds, but quite frankly, I think it's more likely to be in a film by the Spanish director Pedro Almodovar. It's a kind of torch song. Something that would definitely be at home on the soundtracks for Women on the Verge of Nervous Breakdown or High Heels. particularly High Heels, because this is all about a drag artist who imitates somebody else's songs from the 60s. I think that's why I really quite like it. I'm not generally a fan of ballads, but this I do really like. However, I have doubts about it because I think that a large proportion, I'm not saying the majority, but a large proportion of the televoters, not to mention quite a few of the juries, might say, oh look, it's a bearded lady, what a freak. And so therefore might not get the love that the song and performance I feel deserves. And now on to our last song of the day. And if the previous 6 songs failed to get your attention, Lithuania's Vilja Mačiūnaitė hopes her song will. Here's attention.
I'm gonna make you fall, on your knees. I'm gonna make you fall down to get up. Attention, a little bit, and you can have love, some love. Attention, a little bit, and you can have lots of love. Do you dream about me in your bed? Keep on dreaming. You thought I'd give it to you all I had. Hey, not that was my eye.
Gav, are you standing to attention?
Certainly not. I just think the song doesn't go anywhere at all. The verses sound like an Alison Moyet B-side and nothing more than what you'd expect to hear in a lonely cabaret bar. The chorus is lively, but the song as a whole meanders without purpose and comes across as being a bit too arty-farty. The staging at the national final was weird. There's a moment where the male dancer has his head planted under her tutu. The reason for that is beyond me, so I'm interested to see what package Lithuania takes to Copenhagen. Lithuania do have a lot of allies, so I think there is a risk that this song qualifies, but personally I dislike the song.
Well, to be honest, I agree with you. There's a reason possibly why Lithuania are the least successful of the ex-Soviet Baltic countries, and well, in this case they seem to have forgotten the tune. Seemingly Vilja herself wrote it, but I like her singing, but she's clearly a talented vocalist, but if she actually had a tune to sing, it might be slightly better. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think the song is too aggressive. It's very difficult to like. I think juries will mostly hate it, and it's a very risky choice. In the press this week, there was an interview with the singer, and she said she's glad how Lithuania's not gone the conservative route this year, when actually conservative is what qualifies at Eurovision. You don't want to take too much of a risk. Yeah, the song is just too much of a nothing song. But on the other hand, like Lithuania's got lots of friends voting in the semi, probably more so than any other country voting. So if it qualifies, which I would give it a reasonable chance of doing so, it would be because it's got friends voting for it and not because it deserves to. Lithuania's got quite a good qualification record, actually. I wouldn't rule it out whatsoever, and I would actually back it if it went high enough. But the moment it's around even, something like that, so it would need to be a lot higher for me to consider backing it, but I wouldn't be laying it at that kind of price either.
No, I think that's fair enough. I really hope this doesn't qualify, but actually, since only 5 countries will drop out from this semi-final, who knows? Anyway, that's it from us this week. We'll be back next week with a new guest to discuss the last of 2014's semi-finalists. So all that remains for me to do is to say thank you so much for Tim Booth.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making the time, and thank you once again to Gavin Lambert.
Thanks for hosting, Andy, and thanks for taking part, Tim.
No problem. Sorry, I answered for Tim there, but no problem. No problem on my part, and I should point out that it's Gavin who does all the hard work and produces this podcast and edits out all of our mistakes. So thank you once again, Gavin. Anyway, enough of the thank yous. I hate you all. Once again, please support us by sharing ESCtips.com and this podcast with your friends. We're now on iTunes, so you can share, and share again. Anyway, it's good night from me, Andy Redfern, and thank you for listening, and see you next time.